Did you know? Before the invention of trains, we used to run wagons on your mom. Oh, the memories. Let's just keep on going right here. Give her a little highlight.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Addressing the recent revelation that all that was declared to the Georgia State Athletic Commission for Claressa Shields' fight this past weekend was a meager $500,000, which is a dramatic difference from the $2 million she's said to be making per fight. Claressa said, "I see what y'all are trying to do, but I made over $1 million each fight since Savannah Marshall." Yeah, I don't believe that. Because every fight that she's had since Savannah Marshall was promoted by Dimitri Salita, and put simply, Dimitri doesn't have that kind of money. He doesn't kick out those kinds of purses. Claressa continued, "What the Georgia Athletic Commission disclosed is the guaranteed base purse on record, which is the amount I was comfortable receiving up front and have publicly disclosed." Yeah, comfortability has nothing to do with what you declare to a local commission. "That figure does not represent my total compensation for the event. My earnings extend beyond the guaranteed purse and include participation in the overall business of the event, including gate revenue, sponsorships, and other event-related revenue streams." So what are you talking about, Claressa? Popcorn and hot dog money? We're to believe that you made an additional $1.5 million from peanuts and candy bars? Because you're supposed to be making $2 million per fight. 500 large is only a quarter of that amount. Claressa continued, "Out of respect for my opponent's privacy, I won't speak on her compensation or the terms of her agreement. I know my opponent was paid her highest fight purse." Because Claressa has so much respect for her opponents. Yeah, I don't even think Claressa wrote this. It was either Papoose or somebody else at Win Records. That doesn't sound like her. But as you can imagine, the interwebs, as it were, is having a field day with this. Twitter user who goes by the name I Love a Bit of Honey said, "Poor K Scotch. The Baddies girls made more than you." To which Claressa responded, "I made millions. Are you on dope?" I don't see how she could have. The event was split in half. There was a Zeus Network portion, which was not shown on DAZN, and I don't imagine that Claressa made anything from Zeus. That was for Ray J and the Baddies and the other Uber celebrities, not Claressa. Claressa's portion doesn't start until after theirs, and that money, I don't think it's intermingled. Now, when you talk about sponsorships or endorsements, I suppose that she could have made a few thousand extra from that. Patches on the trunks, insignias on the ring, things of that nature, though nothing astronomical, just a few thousand. It's sort of the industry standard that a fighter doesn't declare all of their money to the commission. They always leave a small portion out. What you declare to the commission is for taxation purposes, and what you don't declare, it's the same with that. So if what Claressa's saying is she deliberately didn't declare $1.5 million out of her purse, you just admitted to tax fraud. The fuck, are you stupid? And I don't think she's that stupid. What I think she's doing is lying. She's exaggerating about what she got for the fight, inflating her market value. Because of what I told you, a lot of what she does, including the announcement of this $8 million deal, was all for show. Chalk it up to being a sophisticated bluff to where you're gonna tell the world that you make $2 million per fight, so that if anybody ever wants to use you, that's what they have to pay. When in reality, you're not making that. You're inflating your market value. It's all for show, like what she did with the offer for Layla Ali? Or do you guys think it's at all normal to come out with a giant novelty-sized check with $15 million written in big numbers to make an offer for a fight? Is that how things are normally done in boxing? That wasn't done for Layla Ali. That was done for an audience. That was for show. Because if it's about making Layla an offer, you draw up a draft contract, a term sheet that discloses the terms of engagement, where the money's going to be coming from, the proposed fight date. Whereas what Claressa did was get all her buddies together in one room and hit record to make a spectacle out of it. It was for an audience, not for Layla. It's not simply that the giant novelty-sized check wasn't real. The offer wasn't real. The money doesn't exist. Win Records doesn't have it. The company hadn't even been around a year at the time they made that video, that quote-unquote offer, and Dimitri Salita, he doesn't have it. He doesn't have $15 million to give his own fighter, so you think he's got it to give to Layla Ali. From the time that Claressa Shields was boxing on Showtime till now, not a lot about her promotional situation has changed. She debuted with Dimitri Salita as her promoter, and he is still her promoter now. So when she was complaining about not being paid enough, what changed? Are we to believe that DAZN is now giving you more money than Showtime Boxing was when you were over there? Well, I don't believe it. Anybody who watches boxing can look at a Dimitri Salita show and see he's not operating at the same level as Matchroom or Top Rank, and he's still her promoter. So where is all this extra money supposed to be coming from? Win Records, a company that's barely a year old? They don't have any high-profile acquisitions. Aside from Claressa, Clarissa's the biggest act they have. And that wasn't a pay-per-view on Saturday, so when you talk about additional arms of revenue, you're not talking about the kind of arms that could deliver you an extra $1.5 million. That's a sizable sum to where if you didn't declare it but you got it, it would be tax evasion. Though what I think? She's just lying. She's just inflating her market value because she wants to appear as getting the same money as Katie, the same money as Amanda. So that moving forward, if she asks somebody for it, she won't seem like she's out of her mind. So Showtime looked at her when she told them that she wants to be on pay-per-view. They told her, you don't have a big enough following. Maybe that following has grown over time, and I could see that, but not to the point where she's making $2 million per fight. I don't see that.
What went wrong against Shakur? Rarely have we seen you kind of in a type of fight like that, right? I mean, that was quite dominant on his end. What went wrong in your opinion?
I'd say what went wrong would be the just the game plan. You know, he's a class act, a defensive fighter at that, and I think the whole thing was just the miscommunication and possibly just taking a fight with Shakur, really, at this particular time. Maybe earlier on after the Taylor and all those type of fights would have been best. But we just move forward now. You know, the whole thing we could do now is learn from it and move forward and just take over the next weight division, which is right now, the welterweight division. Did he surprise you? Like, was he better than you thought he would be? No, I always knew Shakur had the goods. I just thought he would be more offensive. That's all. I mean, but he didn't need to do much. All he had to do was keep his distance, use his jab, and stay from that range. And he won successfully. I could say, to me personally, that was my first defeat that I ever took. But it was one that I needed to realize everything that I know now. You know, I just gotta trust in myself and trust in my instincts moving forward on with my body, listen to my body, and at the same time, make sure my team is in check, so to speak. So when you say that, like he could have been more offensive, was it frustrating? Were you expecting like more action out of him? Is that what you're saying? Honestly, I would have liked it to be that way. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because for those moments where he's throwing those combinations, I still have him in that pocket to engage with him, you know, and at least get some of my shots in. But, you know, things worked out the way he did. They worked on their game plan. They successfully succeeded that night, you know, and it's, but I don't really like associating and talking about Zuffa fighters. I really don't.
Ariel Helwani asked Teofimo what exactly went wrong in the Shakur-Stevenson fight. What was always going to go wrong and what has always gone wrong for Teofimo in a fight. When he's the one who's got to initiate and come forward and press the action, he's not as good on the front foot as he is on the back foot. He's a talented counterpuncher on the defensive, but on the offensive, you know, we got a glimpse of that in the George Kambosos fight when George countered him and sent him to the canvas. We got another glimpse of that with Sindor Martin and Jermaine Ortiz, and more recently, earlier this year, we saw it again with Shakur. Teo's just not that good on the front foot, best described as a boxer puncher, a counter puncher. But as I've told you in numerous videos, not all boxer punchers are created equal. Some lean towards the boxing, others lean towards the punching. Teo's one of the ones that leans towards the boxing, where Boots Ennis would be one of the ones that leans towards the punching. So even among boxer punchers, there are nuances and differences that make a big difference. The most glaring example of a boxer who can toggle between the boxing and the punching effectively would have to be Canelo, because during his time at 154, he was a little bit more like Teo, boxer puncher, counter puncher, who worked heavily off the counter, but as he started climbing up in weight, and the guys got increasingly bigger, taller, longer, hanging back and working off the counter was no longer an option, because if you're the smaller fighter and you're doing that, you're a sitting duck. So what you started to see Canelo do was tuck up behind a high guard and come forward, applying pressure, still working off the counter, but catching and shooting. Catching and countering. Toggling between two base styles, essentially. The boxer-puncher and the pressure fighter. That's why some people confuse Canelo for being a pressure guy, even though he's not. It's what Teo's gotta learn. Because he still hadn't. At least not at the time that he fought Shakur, who looked to be a little taller and a little longer, long enough to hit him with that jab from a safe distance and control the range at which the fight was being fought. He says all he can do is learn from those mistakes, but has he? Has he really? He's fighting Rolly Romero this weekend, which is a far cry from a Shakur Stevenson. Rolly's not a pure boxer like Shakur. He's not a boxer's boxer, even though he's trying to be. Yeah, now that he's with Ishmael Salas. If Teofimo ends up winning this weekend, I don't think it's going to be because he patched up the holes or all of a sudden learned how to initiate and come forward, pressing the action. If he wins, it's going to be because of his previous experiences sparring Rolly Romero. It'll be because Rolly doesn't compete at the same level as a Shakur Stevenson. It'll be because Rolly has always been a flawed, albeit somewhat popular fighter. It's not going to be because Teo all of a sudden patched up the holes and now he knows how to come forward. He may not have to against Rolly.
Can you tell me why? Why don't you like talking about the Zuffa fighters?
Well, there's a particular person and that is calling the shots in Zuffa that wants to get rid of all the sanctioning body belts within like a grasp of 10 years. And I think that defeats the purpose of what I've always aimed for, which was undisputed. What I always reclaimed as being the best. You win the Ring magazine and you become champion and you have all other 4 sanctioning belts. I mean, I grew up in the era and times of watching, my peers. So why have Zuffa come in now and want to change and rewrite the whole thing, including the Revival Act? I think that it's a disservice. And that's why I trusted my gut in going directly with the zone, with Takeover Promotions, and that way it protects me in case they pass this bill soon for the Revival Act.
And I think you're referring to Dana White, right?
No, I'm actually not.
Okay.
There's somebody else in the back end of that's pulling a bit more cards in there that I spoke to personally right after the when they spoke to the Congress and stuff. So
was it Nick Khan?
I think there's a group of them. So
okay, the reason I brought up Dana first, just because you were a part of that brand risk event at the Apex, and there was some talk online that they kind of like ignored you when you were sitting up there on the broadcast. Was that just like an oversight? Was there some friction there? Do you know what I'm talking about? This clip kind of went viral where they didn't acknowledge you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hunter Campbell, I think he was great about everything, though. He told me afterwards, hey, it was just miscommunication. We had a lot going on that night. As you can see, we didn't mean to ignore you at all. We respect you and we appreciate everything you do for the sport. And that was when he was in China, apparently for one of the UFC events or so. So, no bad blood with those guys at all. If there's ever talks with them in the near future, then that happens. But as of right now, I just believe that in my career and set in time, it's just not the right fit. It's really not.
Rather cryptic account of events from Teofimo Lopez, who says the top brass are the ones who want to get rid of the alphabet organizations, not necessarily Nick Khan or Dana White, but somebody in the background. Though if that really is their long-term strategy, how do they mean to do that? And take whatever you hear from Teofimo with a pinch of salt, because remember, this is someone who may have an axe to grind with Zuffa. They didn't give him the cold shoulder for no reason, and he didn't decide to go to DAZN for no reason. After weeks of rumors that he would be the latest high-profile acquisition for Zuffa. It's a little hard to imagine. Dana White never actually said that he wants to get rid of the sanctioning bodies, just that he doesn't want to work with them. And that's not the same thing. What they've been advocating for, the formation of a unified boxing organization, essentially a biosphere, a league unto itself, that's not exactly getting rid of the sanctioning bodies either. That's just carving out a lane for yourself. If we are to entertain Teofimo's account of events that they do want to get rid of the alphabets, how would they mean to do that when they're still relying on them for notoriety, for name value? If they try to pick up a Hamza Shiraz, for example, it's not for no reason. It's because he's WBO champion. Without that WBO title, he's not a big draw yet. He's not a big ticket seller, not yet. All the value in signing him is that he has a belt. And with that belt, you can do a unification with Canelo. The belts are still appealing to the fighters. The unification matches are still appealing to the audience. So that if it were your aim to get rid of those alphabet organizations, how could you do that when you're still kind of relying on them for high-profile acquisitions?
Yeah.
Okay, so ultimately you signed with DAZN. This was huge news recently. You didn't link up with any typical promoter. You're signing with the broadcast partner. And we've seen this back in the day in boxing, but not so much as of late. Can you tell us ultimately why this made sense for you?
Really, why it made sense was, how can you go from, the most attendance ever recorded at Madison Square Garden with over 22,000 people in attendance and go back to a small room? Zuffa wanted me to be part of the Edgar Berlanga Richardson Hitchin card in New York, but in the theater, and a lot of things didn't play out the way I wanted to see it, how I visioned it. And then, the things that occurred with Zuffa, with the sanctioning bodies hearing those things, and it's just a lot of scruffle. So when it came to DAZN, the offer was great. It was in my favor. As long as I keep on winning and continue to strive for undisputed at 147, this is going to be a no-brainer decision on why we took this deal with DAZN. We get to audit them. We get to do a lot of safety measures just to be safe with anything that ever comes up when it comes to the Ali Act and et cetera, et cetera. It's just in protection, and Takeover Promotions, I'm here to truly, really support and take care of the next generation. I would like to eventually get, I'm going to say health insurance and all these great things to the fighters that I sign.
Okay, so I didn't realize that they had actually kind of like engaged in talks with you and wanting you to fight on that card. As far as the monetary value of the deal, was it close to what DAZN was offering, or was the DAZN deal better?
The DAZN deal was so far better than what it was expected. Respectfully, I just think that when it comes to, it's nothing personal, it's just business when it comes to that. And the NILs are a main key factor there, The NILs, the ownership, the fight rights, all those things are a huge key factor once you become that one of the big stars and one of the big names in the sport of boxing.
In other words, it was the money. If Teofimo Lopez decided to forego signing to Zuffa, it's because he didn't like the money. He was likely expecting more, and he sort of gives it away when he says, how could I go from fighting at the big room at MSG to fighting on an undercard and at a smaller venue with these guys? Now remember what I told you, that you have to take whatever he says with a pinch of salt because, well, how much money were you expecting, Teofimo? You didn't have a belt at the time that they approached you. You were coming off a loss. What were they supposed to pay for you? I don't think it was anything to do with the alphabet organizations and Zuffa's 10-year plan. That wasn't what did it for Teofimo, it was the money. He was expecting more money, perhaps the kind of money that Shakur was getting for going over there. And when he saw he wasn't going to get that, but why would you get what Shakur gets when Shakur beat you? He may have made the right decision for himself. I'm not saying he didn't. I'm saying take whatever he says with a pinch of salt because he may have an axe to grind.